Greetings, citizens, and thanks for tuning in to Nindie Nation. I'm Jeff, and today on episode 183, we have quite the interesting lineup of indie games to check out, and all of which arrive on the eShop this week. Let me know which games stand out to you down in the comments, and if you're on the fence, feel free to suggest a game for us to check out live on this Thursday's Nindies Nite stream. Now, like I mentioned, we've got an oddly slim lineup today, especially after the massive drop from last week, so we'll touch on some of the more iffy games later in this episode, but for now we'll just get started like we always do. Okay? These are the 5 notable new releases hitting the Nintendo Switch through Sunday, May 7th. Kicking off the week on Tuesday the 2nd, we've got our first release by Two Nice apps, arbiters of fine gaming programming like Pachepe, the Costa Rican ride-sharing app, and Jupiter Simulator, which, as far as I can tell, is just pictures of space. Yeah, I told you it was a weird week. Toziua, Dracula's Revenge is a cheap Castlevania clone whose trailer shows that the only thing which has changed is replacing scary bosses with pixelated dominatrixes.
Dominatrices?
Yeah. Still looks like a fun game if you're into the pre-Symphony of the Night Castlevania titles, but probably not the best way to spend $5 unless you're really itching for more of this style of action. But never fear, because Roca Play is here to give us some optimism for the week, and while their past catalog isn't much to write home about, they've teamed up with a developer duo from Germany called Firechick, whose release on Wednesday is the quite promising Super Dungeon Maker. If you recall back when Super Mario Maker released, the internet was chock full of rumors and wishful thinking for some kind of Super Zelda Maker. And that's essentially what we've got right here. The pixel art is lively and cute, and just like Mario Maker, the tools at your disposal look surprisingly intuitive. You plot out your levels in the editor, and then get to explore your own dungeons in a mostly traditional top-down Zelda fashion. So far, reviews on Steam have been positive, but I've got some questions that just might require us to dig into it more on stream. I can't tell how much of a single-player or ready-to-go campaign there is, but you can download creations from the community. However, I have no idea if it would be technically possible to tap into the library of creations PC players have been making over the past year, but that would certainly bolster this game's content considerably. If that isn't possible, and there's no pre-built campaign, I'm concerned that this game could fall into a very small creative niche. But what is there looks like a lot of fun and is mechanically diverse. I'm torn here. At $20, I'd really like to try it out first just to see what's available for those of us like me who enjoy this style of game but don't see ourselves going all in designing our own levels. For those of you who love to make your own experiences though, Super Dungeon Maker seems like a no-brainer. And hopefully we can check it out together to see if there's enough there for the rest of us, because this looks like it could be a lot of fun to tinker with. Up next, we set our sights on an admittedly paltry Thursday drop, but we start with something that should have pretty broad appeal. During the recent Indie World Showcase, a lot of you were excited to see that Brotato, the silly twin-stick roguelike with Binding of Isaac-style visuals, is coming to the Switch later this summer. Well, it turns out that Seven Studios just grabbed all the games made by Brotato's developer, Thomas Gorveau, and is bringing Space Gladiators over on Thursday for $14.99. Despite Brotato being a Vampire Survivors-like, it just didn't resonate with me, but I'm very interested in this one. It uses the same art style, simple, a bit silly, and also a bit gross, but it leverages a 2D side-scrolling approach as you fight your way out of a space prison as a locked and loaded space potato? Oh, indie games, don't ever change. I am glad to see that there's no Switch tax, as it's also $15 on Steam, but still, at that price, I definitely want to see more before recommending it. But don't you worry, citizens, because this game has Nindies Nite written all over it, as Space Gladiators is a 2D action platformer with procedurally generated levels. roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements! As far as I'm concerned, there are only 2 developers who have really nailed what a modern FMV or full-motion video game can be. Sam Barlow, who's responsible for Her Story and Immortality, and then there's Wales Interactive, who bounces back and forth between lighthearted romps like 10 Dates, sci-fi adventures such as The Complex, spooky experiences like Maid of Sker, and even detective stories with last year's Who Pressed Mute on Uncle Marcus. Well, they're back this week with something that pulls from all of those genres with the buddy cop, live-action, interactive movie Mia and the Dragon Princess for $12.99.
You follow Mia, a barmaid whose life is thrown into chaos when a mysterious woman turns up at her workplace, on the run from a group of violent thugs and unable to speak English.
That sounds pretty cool to me. There's a bunch of fight stunts that you can interact with, and the cast and choreography includes folks from Doctor Who, The Witcher, and Guardians of the Galaxy, just to name a few. There's 10 different endings to unlock, and it has a streamer mode that lets you pause the game to interact with the audience in real time, which, not gonna lie, sounds like a lot of fun. I'm certainly down for more high-quality B-tier FMV games, and Wales has proven themselves to deliver time and time again. So what do you think? Anyone here ever played one of their games? Let me know down in the comments which ones, if so. And then, if you're looking at our current runtime, you might be surprised to know that we're already at our last release for the week. But hang on, because we've got something a bit different after we check out the latest release by Ratalaika Games. Gruda says it's one thing, but the trailer says otherwise, so I'm a bit confused. It looks like a very simple action platformer, but as you can see, its mix of 2D and 3D visuals with a hand-drawn black and white art style creates a very interesting aesthetic. According to the description by the developer Cappy Cappy, this is a narrative-driven platformer without any text, but I'm not seeing any of that represented in the trailer. Either way, it's $5 and looks like their usual little weekend romp. And now, my friends, my fellow citizens, we arrive at, I don't know, I guess the games that seemed worth mentioning but don't warrant a slot in the regular show, as I consider those recommendations. Since it's already such a short show, I figured we'd include them just in case there's something here that rings your bell. So, these are the 4, negligible Nindies also hitting the eShop through Sunday, May 7th. No Place Like Home is a laid-back slice-of-life game where you explore a version of Earth that's been trashed after humanity left for Mars. You play as a girl named Ellen who's trying to set up a post-apocalypse farm as she works to rebuild her village. The visuals really aren't doing it for me, and while overall it has very positive reviews on Steam, recently it has been much more mixed thanks to some buggy updates. It sounds like the game is a bit more mechanically shallow than most of its genre contemporaries, and is much more linear because of its narrative. It's developed by Chicken Launcher and published by Merge Games for $24.99. Tiny Dragon Story is a level-based action platformer by PCAT Games that originally released on Itch.io in 2020. I love the chiptune music here, and the gameplay looks like a fun mix of Mario and Mega Man, which fully embraces its NES and Game Boy inspirations, and will take you about an hour to get through. Thing is, it's published by Red Deer Games and launches for $12.99. That means it will be re-released every other week in perpetuity and almost always be on sale for $1.99. So if you're interested, definitely wait for a price drop. Swordbreaker Origins is some kind of high fantasy visual novel by Ducats Games. It's published by Sometimes You and releases for $7.99, but if you're really interested in this, I'd say check out the first game in this series, because that entry is called Swordbreaker the Game, and it's currently listed on the eShop for a whopping 9 cents. And then last up is Scrap Bolts, which is a speed-based platformer where you play as a little unicycle robot thing. Looks like every other game in this genre, but still might be fun for a bit. The main reason it's in this segment though, similar to Tiny Dragon's story, is not only because $10 feels a bit too steep here, but also because it's published by
Game National!
And look, maybe Scrap Bolts is one of the better games in
Game National's
catalog. They do have a couple that are worth checking out, but when that catalog currently spans 38 releases on the eShop alone, the numbers ain't really working in this game's favor. But that's okay! We've had some banger weeks recently, and I'm sure many of you, just like me, have more than enough to play on your backlog. If not, or you're just dying to play something brand spankin' new, Super Dungeon Maker and Space Gladiators have definitely piqued my interest more than the rest. Do you see anything this week you want to check out? Maybe some Budgetvania action in Toziua, or maybe you want to get your FMV on in Mia and the Dragon Princess? Let me know down in the comments, and if I've figured out what we're playing for Nindies Nite on Thursday, it'll be on screen right now. But I'm always willing to change things up based on your feedback, so let me know. I'm assuming a lot of these developers and publishers are wisely trying to get out of Zelda's way, because next week is looking a little better, but not by much. We've got Poosh XL, the next release by Atom Vision Studios, which are always a treat, an interesting real-time strategy game of some sort called Elemental War 2, and then Leap from Hell, which I can only assume follows one of you citizens who comes to Nindie Nation after trying to find worthwhile new releases by browsing the eShop. We'll just have to wait and see those citizens, because we're all done for today. Thanks so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and sharing Nindie Nation with others. Until next week, I'm Jeff. This has been Nindie Nation episode 183, and remember, no matter what type of game you're looking for, Nindie Nation will be right here to help you find just the thing to keep your Joy-Cons synced.